How's it going, Bat Family? Welcome back to a brand new The Batman movie update video. Today, we've got quite a bit to comb through as usual. I feel like I'm going to be very busy up until the movie releases. So today, I'm actually going to split this into a couple of videos. I was going to cover a bunch of interview stuff in this video, but watch out on the channel for that video over the next couple of days because there is so much information coming out of new interviews with Robert Pattinson, Matt Reeves, talking about even, you know, the second movie, Mask of the Phantasm, and how Robert Pattinson really likes that, and just there's so many things that I was going to attach that into this video, but, you know, there's also other things we need to get into in this video, and that is some new TV spots, which, you know, I feel like I want to watch with you guys, give my thoughts on it. So I am aware at the same time not everyone wants to be exposed to all of the new TV trailers, if you will, because they are showing little bits and pieces that I wouldn't say they're like, you know, movie ruining spoilers or anything like that, but people are now adopting like the idea of maybe we shouldn't see any more than just the main trailers, and that's fair enough. But today, for those of you who remain, we're gonna go over those and just kind of nerd out about them. There is a couple of other news updates which I may as well just put out there right away, and that is the Riddler website. If a lot of you guys know, it's like Retalda or whatever.com, I don't know. A lot of people have already gone through the riddles and got the latest reward. Beforehand, it was that GCPD sketch of the Batman, which was amazing, and probably an actual in-movie kind of, you know, picture thing that the GCPD is using to try and sketch up the Batman and what he looks like. But this time the reward was a photo of Falcone, which is really cool. It's basically a set photo from the Batman when they were filming the cathedral scene in Liverpool. The cathedral scene, if you don't know already, is the place in where the mayor's funeral is taking place. That's where Gil Colson, the district attorney, bursts through, and he's the next one to die, basically, from the Riddler. But it's just cool seeing Falcone here, John Turturro's Falcone. We don't always have the best look at him, but lo and behold, we do kind of have a actual first in motion look at him in one of these TV spots we're about to get into. But here he's letting Selena Kyle out the car. A lot of you may already know this from around the time of when it was filming. The relationship between Oz Cobblepot and Falcone is somewhat of a interesting one, which we are getting more information coming out of those interviews. So yes, stay tuned for the next couple of days on the channel because I will be posting that video. As we can see, there's a little bit of a posse, if you will, Falcone's posse, because Falcone and Penguin work together with their kind of criminal underworld enterprises. And as for how Selena fits into all of that, well, that's going to be an interesting thing to find out for sure. I believe Falcone even has the scratches on his face, as we've seen in set photos from ages ago from Catwoman, which is another awesome detail. Just wanted to chuck that out there. It's nothing too much to talk about other than it is a very comic accurate looking Falcone. But another awesome thing as well, I mean, this is I guess subjective, I personally like it, is a new poster for the movie. Now, the reason why I just said what I just said is because these days I feel like, if you will, floating head posters aren't really the popular thing anymore. A lot of movies try and do it. Sometimes it works well, sometimes it's just, you know, we've seen these a billion times before and all they do in Photoshop is kind of like fade out, you know, characters on top of each other and stack them on top of each other with a nice kind of looking background. But here with the Batman, I would say I'm a fan of this one. And there are other characters in the movie, of course, as well, who you may be thinking, why aren't they on the poster, like Jeffrey Wright's Jim Gordon? That doesn't mean that they're still not really heavily involved in the movie. It's just, I guess here they really wanted to highlight a few characters, and that is of course the Batman himself. We have Penguin right in the middle there, Selena to the right, Riddler to the left, and then Bruce Wayne at the bottom. And I like how, just like some of the trailers, we have the Riddler insignia, and inside the top part of the question mark, almost as if it's formulating a circle, you have right in the center target there of the insignia, Bruce Wayne. But guys, this is where we're about to move on to some of the trailers. What I'm going to do is, I guess, initially play them and watch them with you, and then just kind of comb out some details that occur to me as of when I've watched them. I have already watched them, so this isn't like a pure first reaction or anything like that, but it's just to, you know, make it a little bit more in the moment with me watching them on screen with you. And some of this stuff is awesome. We get our first proper look at Wayne Tower, which is already, if I'm remembering something with what's happening in that scene, that there's something to talk about there. There's just other really cool moments, so without wasting much more time, let's get into that. But before we do, if you've reached this part in the video, I'd really appreciate if you've got your phone, you're watching this on your phone, maybe if you're watching on your TV, go on your phone and hit like on the video. And that would just be really awesome. We're also not far away from 100k subs, so if you've been watching my videos and you're still not subscribed, maybe today is the day you consider subscribing, and that would be awesome because I'm sure you'll enjoy the future videos with news, reviews, updates, and all kinds of things like that. But let's first start off, ladies and gentlemen, with the fabled Falcone TV spot, and I call it that because you may remember me the other day basically saying that there was an ad with Falcone, but I didn't want to post anything that wasn't kind of already floating out there as an advertisement, and here we finally have it. And it turns out that it is indeed a part of an ad. It just seemed that nobody was actually capturing the Falcone part. But anyway, let's give this one a watch.
Think you're gonna scare me with that mask and that cape?
I love that.
No, I am.
Who are you under there?
This isn't over.
So as you can tell, these are indeed short trailers, but again, this is the BobaTalks channel. We can talk for quite a bit, but I'm going to try and not ramble too much. At the very, very beginning, I do like how it starts off with a Batman wingsuit situation. We get a little bit of an extended look at that as well, because when he jumps off, don't forget a wingsuit. I'm sure many of you know what a wingsuit is, but it is literally a situation where you can glide. Obviously, through aerodynamics, you can kind of steer your way around. And when Batman jumps off the top of that building, here we get a new angle we haven't seen before, where he's literally like a winged rat, as Riddler likes to say. And it's just really cool, because I'm thinking, where is he gonna go from here? Because obviously he escapes the GCPD and glides off in the wingsuit. You've got the webbing, so to speak, that allows you to sift through the air. That's how a wingsuit works. He's gonna descend and descend and descend, obviously, and we can see the streets of Gotham below. So what's he gonna do, land on top of a car or something? I do expect something pretty epic to happen at the end of this. I also wouldn't be surprised if maybe like he lands a bit rough, because at the end of the day, this is a year 2 Batman. How many times has he truly done this before in a panicked escape situation where he has to glide off, you know, and land successfully? It might not be so smooth, and the reason why I'd be fine with that is because maybe he hasn't done this so many times. He's not an incredibly experienced Batman, but I do believe there might have been some newspapers out there that we've already seen from the set saying a bat scene scouring over Gotham skies. That's a bad abbreviation, but if that is true, that means maybe he has been spotted flying over the sky before. Again, don't want to ramble too much about this, just appreciate another angle. He will be doing this in an incredibly high speed as well. When you do wingsuit, you are very, very fast. So again, it just further intrigues me as to how he's going to be that fast to the actual landing point. Well, how's that going to actually be? Then, of course, we get that Carmine Falcone part, and it looks like Batman's kind of really just grabbing him like this from behind and escorting him maybe through a precinct. I don't have too much to say about this, other than it is pretty ballsy of Falcone to say, you think you're going to scare me with that mask and that cape? I love that. I mean, this is a guy who may not be as out there as maybe what you thought, because as I said earlier, it seems that Falcone, I wouldn't say he operates from the shadows. He's just, you know, he's that prestigious. If you want to see him face to face, it might not be something as easy. He's not necessarily on the street. I guess he's a bit more of a royalty crime lord, so to speak. So here, he's like, you think you're gonna scare me with that mask and that cape? Like, do you know who I am? Like, if he's escorting him into the GCPD, no wonder why you have people in the background there, or whatever precinct this is, just looking at this situation unfold. Like, no cop would ever dare to do that, because they don't have the anonymity that the Batman has. Think about it. If anyone dared, even if they had a rightful arrest on Falcone to walk him through, they would be fearing for their lives, their family's lives, their sister, even if they don't have a family, whoever, right? But the Batman can get away with this because he has a freaking mask. So that's why everyone's like, holy shit, like somebody's doing it, if you know what I mean. And yet we have him just being like, you think you can scare me? He's probably thinking like, I'm going to get out of this, and other than that, you're not intimidating to me anyway, mate. Other than that, the only new thing about this trailer is where we get that shot of Batman saying, this isn't over, obviously from a part of the film where something just happens and he's just like, this isn't over. You know, just something as simple as that. But up next, we have another interesting trailer. I mean, all of these are interesting. This one I kind of like to call a bit more of a character teaser trailer, because they have on screen like the Riddler, Penguin, the Batman, or whatever, you know, and each one subsequently a little bit of new clips are coming out. So let's get into that one.
Maybe this is all coming to an end.
What is?
I think I'm his last target.
That's interesting.
I've been trying
To reach you, The Penguin.
You think you can come after me?
It's only gonna get worse for you.
Do you think you can stop what's coming?
What have you done?
All it takes is fear,
I love that shot, man.
focused violence.
The Batman.
The Batman. I love this spot, this little TV spot. So this March, we have this really cool bit where they're looking at the clue board, the murder board. And again, some people have raised this, and I briefly spoke about it in my other video. I said that it's kind of a bit sus how easy they're making it seem to be like, hey, the Batman, Bruce Wayne clippings on the same board. And then even like what I was getting to there is like, they're the same person. And even Riddler writing, I know the real you. And then photos of Wayne back then. If only I knew then what I know now. If you've been watching my videos, you know exactly the clues and writings and ramblings of the Riddler I'm talking about. And then, to add on top of that in this trailer, we have Pattinson's Batman say, I think I'm his next target. And that is when they're looking at the clippings of the Waynes. I guess, you know, obviously the Batman is on the clue board, but to announce that with all of the Wayne clippings is just so interesting to me because it's kind of like a little bit sus. It's too close for comfort to have the identity of Bruce Wayne be on the board and Batman. But also another interesting factor is when he says, you know, I think this is all coming to an end, and Gordon's just like, what is? And he says, I think I'm his next target. This must be quite a ways through the film when they stumble in that room where all the clippings are. We've known for quite a while that the Riddler has some kind of location. With the Riddler trap mask in there, the cages for the bats and maybe even the rats. We didn't really, or haven't known so far at what part of the film that is, but if he's saying in this very room, this is all coming to an end, this must be well after the mayor's died, maybe even Pete Savage, the commissioner's died, the district attorney, Gil Colson, has died, and that's why, you know, in the other recent TV spots as well, we have Jim saying, you know, Jesus, Bruce Wayne's his next victim, or something like that. This is obviously the last victim of the movie is most likely Bruce Wayne. But again, if we piece that together with Batman saying, I think I'm his next target, why is he saying that out loud? I do feel like it is a bit weird though, if I'm being really candid here, how obvious it does seem that these two people in the murder room, clue board room, are like the same person, Bruce Wayne and Batman. But we're gonna have to wait to truly see how in the movie they do make it separate enough for nobody to clock on to that. Now, the next bit of substance is what we've seen before and what we've covered the past few days, but when Penguin says, hey, Vengeance, you think you could come after me? That is something really interesting, and the reason why he's probably calling Batman Vengeance, even though some newspapers, as seen on that murder board, have referred to this vigilante, not just as a vigilante, but also as Batman. But also, I think people start to call him Vengeance because when that thug is getting beaten up in the first DC Fandom trailer, he says, I'm Vengeance, right? So I think that thug, as seen recording it on his phone, there is probably, and this probably also refers to the Andy Serkis Alfred line, you know, you're becoming quite the celebrity. Maybe people call him Vengeance because everyone saw that YouTube clip. I know that's quite an easy one to come to a conclusion of, but it is interesting in how Selena calls him Vengeance. Penguin says, hey, Vengeance, you think you could come after me? You know, people are calling him Vengeance. And I kind of like that at the same time because he hasn't got a firm name yet because he's still a bit of a myth in Gotham. But it is also important to note, papers and the press have also referred to him as Batman at the same time. It just seems that that hasn't quite stuck yet. I love how cocky Penguin is in this clip at the beginning because he's like, hey, Vengeance, you think you could come after me? You know, spraying his Uzi or whatever, but that quickly changes in the other trailer, I think, because as I've mentioned in my previous breakdowns, it seems that even from the first DC Fandom trailer, you can connect scenes to when Penguin is conducting business with his goons there. He's got his car parked there. You see that side profile shot of Batman. I think he goes there with Catwoman to take out Penguin's operation, what he's doing. Obviously, there's a bit of takedowns, maybe stealthy takedowns. That's when maybe Penguin is alone with only one or two goons left, and that's where he flexes, you think you can come after me? But that overconfidence or cockiness and ego quickly turns into fear because of what we're about to get into in the next clip. So keep a bookmark on that for just a minute, because we're going to revisit that in the other scenes, trust me on that. But again, love Colin Farrell's demeanor as Penguin in this scene. The rest of this little teaser trailer just shows another angle of the explosions going off, which is really awesome. Leads to the flooding of the Gotham streets, which is insane. I keep going on about how at first we thought this was like a little bit of a flood, but this is mad flooding, like mad flooding. But also, we get a little bit of a view of the building, I believe, or the windows of where we see Bruce looking up at the bat signal. I believe that this could be a hospital in where Alfred is staying, because it's basically given away that when Bruce is saying to Alfred, like, all these years, Alfred, you lied to me, it is very blatantly obvious that Alfred is laying in a hospital bed. We don't quite know why or what happens to him, but you'll see what I mean when we get to another clip in a moment. Now, in this bit, we finally get a little bit more context as to why Selena is kind of looking over these railings like that, because we also see Jim do the same thing, mixed in with a clip of my bloody guy, Batman, running down the side of a freaking building. I know it's so basic, Batman, at the same time. It's like, well, think about it. Hook yourself up to something and then just run down heroically. But the balls it takes to do that in such a vision of Batman that is really raw and gritty, it seems so much more cooler than something we've seen Batman do a billion times before. In this scene, it's just like, Jesus, like, because this is so grounded at the same time, as well as fantastical, I'm not gonna ignore that. It's just so epic. I do want to note that it is around about that time in the movie, and where Selena says, you know, I've got 9 of them, and then jumps off. We see Batman in the corner with Jim kind of like engulfing him, like as if he's been knocked out, and Jim's trying to stop him from falling off the building. I do want to note it's in that same location as where the crane is. Yet around about that scene as well, Batman is rushing somewhere with such urgency that he's grappled himself onto something sturdy, obviously the side of the building or something like that, and he is running and running and running literally down horizontally the side of a freaking building. And this shot that I'm looking at right now, oh, I love how it just goes down like that, and it's like it swerves to then see this other angle of him. Absolute beautiful cinematography there, and also something that it makes you think, like, damn, I know I've seen this in other things, whether it's animations or maybe even other movies or whatever, but seeing it in this raw version of Batman, it's like you respect Bruce so much more for what he's doing. It's like, Jesus, you are just a human at the end of the day, and you're just like doing this. It's insane. Other than that, we can hear Riddler saying, you think you can stop what's coming? Like, and it's a really intimidating kind of delivery there. So it's like, and he was saying it like, you really think you can stop what's coming? But also, is all it takes is a little fear and a little focused violence. And those lines are being delivered through something that sounds like he's on the other side of something, as if it's going through a little intercom or something, and that is probably because he's saying that to Batman when he goes to visit him in Arkham, which obviously we're going to get quite an exchange there. He's not just going to be saying one sentence and Batman's like, right, I'm up and out. They're going to talk, and that's when he probably gets into all it takes is a little bit of fear and violence. So I've always loved doing little puzzles or little riddles, which is something I do want to get into in a second, because we've got an alternate somewhat take of the Riddler's line, and it sounds quite different, and I've got a wacky theory there. Now, up next is that teaser I was just somewhat teasing, where it gets into a bit of the wacky theory, and a little bit of a different sounding voice of the Riddler. Like, I know there's somewhat of a moist modulated version, but there's also the default version of the Riddler, and where we've heard him in the other trailer, literally saying, you know, and I'm probably going to play it on screen, so you can hear it right now.
I've always loved little puzzles.
That doesn't sound like what we're about to see here, and also it's a different line, so let's listen to this one.
I've always loved little riddles.
Why is he writing to you?
I don't know yet.
Gotham's
The Powder King. And Riddler's the match.
Hell yeah. Okay.
Like it or not, it's his game now.
Oh.
What's black and blue and dead all over?
If you think you can stop what's coming.
The Batman in
So-
Series 4.
Don't call me crazy here, and I'm not saying this is the case, but as I said, in the other trailer we covered the other day, we hear Paul Dano's kind of actual voice where he's like, I've always loved little puzzles, something like that, right? And then in this trailer, you literally hear the line, and it sounds like Barry Keoghan. I'm not saying it is the Joker or because it's also followed with a little yeah, I mean, that could easily be Edward Nashton's Riddler when he's in Arkham just giving a little bit of a giggle as well. It doesn't always have to be the Joker. To all of you saying that and rolling your eyes, I know what you're saying. But since we know we're practically getting the Joker in this movie in a very minimal scene, it's nothing. It's just meant to be more world building, maybe a little bit of setup. But here, the line is just different. It doesn't. I don't think it actually does sound like Dano's normal voice. Like, and maybe it is that thing where I'm projecting my own thoughts onto it. And I do, and I am fully aware that they can use different takes of lines. So, for example, the line we were talking about that we know is Riddler saying to Batman in Arkham, "I've always loved little puzzles." Well, in this one, it sounds not only different in voice, there is an alternative line of, "I've always loved little riddles." You know, he starts loving, and the twang of the voice is a bit different.
I've always loved little puzzles.
I've always loved little riddles.
Now, again, that could just be another take of Paul Dano's Edward Nashton that they've used from the trailer, which is slightly modified, maybe not voice modulated, and it could just be that. But I do want to put it out there that when you compare both lines, it does sound like two different people, and you could insert the theory that maybe Batman goes to Joker, and this does sound less realistic the more and more I think about it. Like, if there's something so perplexing to Batman, the line from Riddler in the other trailers is him saying, "Oh, I've always loved little puzzles," or something like that. Some people are thinking if he goes to the Joker, he could be saying, "I've always loved little riddles." But again, I do admit that is very far-reaching, and it's just like I'm sure Batman could deduce whatever this riddle is and come to a conclusion by himself. He is the world's greatest detective. For him to go to Barry's kind of younger Joker and get some help there, for him to say this line, "I've always loved little riddles," is a little bit of a reach. So I do want to end that there, other than the fact that it is a fact that these are two different lines. "I've always loved little puzzles," which is the Riddler's one. "I've always loved little riddles," with a laugh extended onto it. Sounds different and is a literal different line. Other than that, it's down to you to decide. But I do know what Paul Dano's voice sounds like, and it's weird to me because I can hear in this new trailer teaser, I could see it being his voice, but if you picture Barry's voice or face in your head, I can picture it being Barry's voice, so I don't know. But I'm not going to reach too into that because, as I've already said, there's lots of context. It could be alternate lines, it could be Paul Dano's normal voice with a little bit of an unhingedness aspect to it, where they're not applying the voice modulator that they're now putting in this trailer to throw you off a little bit and make me question this like I am now. But let's move on. My next favorite shot in this is a finished, somewhat CGI model of the Batcave, because we've seen this shot of the Batcave before, but now, as you can clearly tell, they've somewhat added, even where it was like kind of dark before, slightly more zoomed in, now it's zoomed out and you can see bats going around everywhere. You can see more foundation structures that are somewhat crumbled a little bit away in the background. It makes it look like a much bigger Batcave. You can see a literal second train on the other tracks in the background, as what I've discussed before. Like, the main Batcave is on like kind of one track system, but then like behind it there is like another tunnel and another train system going that way. So it's just really awesome to see a much larger scope of the Batcave. Obviously they've added a lot more CGI visual effects to this, where there's bats going around everywhere, and it just looks that much more complete. The next new scene we get of when Batman says, like it or not, it's his game now, or Riddler's game now, we get a shot of Wayne Tower, and that is Wayne Tower in the background. We know that Bruce is living in the penthouse instead of Wayne Manor. He's chilling right at the top of Wayne Tower. That's because Wayne Manor was made into an orphanage, and what we see here is that there's smoke coming out of Wayne Tower. So maybe this is where, like, as we've mentioned earlier, Jeffrey Wright's Jim Gordon is just like, Jesus, Bruce Wayne's his next victim or whatever. Well, that could be the attempt. Obviously, we know Bruce is going to be fine, but I'm guessing that this could be smoke caused by whatever the Riddler had planned to kill Bruce Wayne, because that kind of shows me that maybe Riddler doesn't know Batman's identity. Because if he is actually trying to kill Bruce, that means, yeah, like on the board and the clippings and all of these theories we've discussed with him knowing the identity, maybe he is just after Bruce Wayne because of the sins of his father and how the Wayne name, it does contribute to all of this, and he wants to make an example of a Wayne, the only surviving Wayne left, and that is Bruce, just like all the other higher-up members, just like Gil Colson, Pete Savage, the mayor. There's some kind of association between those names, and that is the corruption in Gotham, and also the Wayne name is associated with that as well, albeit that Batman isn't really aware of it until some point in this movie from Alfred and the Riddler. And that's why that comes into the whole, all these years you've been lying to me, Alfred, because he didn't know that his parents were a part of this too. And that's why I believe when he's saying you are a part of this too in that first DC Fandom trailer, you're probably going to get a moment in this movie where Riddler is actually talking to Bruce Wayne. That's where he says, how am I a part of this? And it's like, you'll see. And he actually doesn't know the identity of Batman. The next new clip that we get, very, very brief, is seeing Selena in that blonde wig. As we know from the other trailers, she fires the gun at someone. We don't know quite who yet. I do think it could be Falcone, and this could be the thing, the straw that breaks the camel's back for Batman in terms of their relationship between Selena and Batman. I'm not saying they're in a full-blown relationship or anything like that. I just mean he might not like the fact that she could kill, because we know Catwoman, she's a bit more of an anti-hero. She doesn't follow the same guidelines Batman does, so where they get on through most of this film, she could do that one thing that kind of low-key makes him think, oh, what? Did you really have to go and do that, Selena? So I think she could be going after either Penguin or Falcone in this moment, and here she's just sneaking up on whoever that, well, person she possibly fires at in the other trailer is. Now, these last two TV spots are exactly what I was on about with seeing Penguin fearing the Batman. Hell yeah. Oh yeah. Look at his face.
Riddler's asking for you.
Riddler's asking for you. Look at it! The car!
It is.
The
All
Batmobile!
about the Wayne.
You lied to me, Alfred.
Aha, okay.
Maybe this is all coming to an end.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Batman.
Right. So, let's go right back to the beginning. The Batmobile is kicking up. It is kicking up a fuss. Look at it. And then Bruce is getting ready to charge at them, intimidate them. And you see them turn around, like, from whatever they're looking at in the trunk. And Penguin's there. And he's just like, what? You see the Batmobile in the distance. All the lights are off. And that zoom in on Colin Farrell's Penguin's face, it's such a contrast to what we were looking at earlier. Here, he's just looking in such fear. Like, he is shitting himself, literally. And he's like, damn, I've screwed up now. And this could be what leads into the chase scene. Maybe somehow he gets away, gets in the car, and they start, you know, driving off. It's almost like Bruce is giving him a head start. It's almost like Bruce, and I wouldn't be surprised, wants to go on the chase. He allows him to get in the car and maybe drive away, and it leads to the Bat and Cat trailer chase scene. That fear in Penguin's eyes, it's so funny when it's like a bully getting made fun of almost when they realize, oh, I don't want to be I'm the victim for once. It's just like, look at him. I feel like Matt Reeves really did deliver when he said that he wanted to mimic Stephen King's possessed car to the Batmobile. It really does seem formidable, and honestly, this Batsuit and Batmobile are literally my favorite to date. Even having not seen the movie, we've seen more than enough to know and make that conclusion as a fan, and I think it's just so good. I can't stop. Like, all I'm going to be doing right now is fanboying, so I need to move on. Now, as I said earlier, when Bruce says to Alfred, you've lied to me, Alfred, we can see a wider shot, and he's looking at somebody laying in a bed. You can see some hospital machinery there by the curtains where you can close that around somebody in a hospital bed. I could be wrong, but I'm willing to bet that I'm right with this one. So what happens to Alfred? Maybe that smoke in Wayne Tower, Bruce wasn't there, but Alfred was there, and he was caught in that explosion where Riddler thought maybe Bruce Wayne would be there. That could be actually what it is. I could be wrong on that theory, by the way. Don't think like you know the movie now. This is just speculation. But now I'm thinking that when Bruce isn't there, when the Riddler goes after the last victim, Bruce Wayne or whatever, the tower gets the smoke coming out of it, as we see in the other teaser, and actually Alfred was unfortunately caught up in that. But obviously he's going to be fine, but, you know, that's when maybe Bruce confronts him. He's like, you lied to me, Alfred, all these years. But probably my favorite one, again, another Batmobile one, but the way this particular teaser builds up tension is amazing. Oh, that music, boom.
Fear
Look at it, fear. Ah, I love that.
is a tool.
This guy's crazy. Come on.
So good.
Come on.
Yes, I love it. Penguin is so gobsmacked.
The Batman.
absolutely fantastic. It's absolutely brilliant. Just seeing that, you know, the music and the way it builds up the presence of the Batmobile, kind of like the other trailer. But when Bruce says, or Batman says, fear, and it's like zooming in on Oz's face as the car headlights or the Batmobile headlights light up his face, and he's just like, you know, like that is I don't know what could get more perfect than that to capture the Batman's power of instilling fear in the heart. That's the whole point of the Batsuit and the Batmobile's visuals, in the heart of criminals, you know, and that is what is going on. Now, obviously, there isn't too much to talk about that other than a couple of other angles of the chase scene, but, you know, we've been over that a billion times before. So I think that concludes this video. I wanted to just somewhat go over these teasers, and I feel like I've done that now, and we can get on to the more, well, these are interesting, but the details coming out of the interviews that I thought we've gone over a lot of interviews by now, like, you know, Empire, etc., etc. But there is even more teasing sequels, teasing, you know, inspirations. You know, there's a lot to go over, and trust me, you're gonna want to tune into that video. I thought more interviews would just kind of recycle what we've heard from other interviews, but there is even more coming out. So stay subscribed, or even subscribe in the first place to make sure you do not miss out on that update video. We're going to get into a lot of juicy commentary there. But if you enjoyed this video, guys, one thing, the only thing I want to ask of you, maybe another thing as well, is like the video other than subscribing, and just share it with your friends. I would love to read your comments down in the comments below about everything I said in this video. Links, as always, are in the top pinned comment or in the description. I have links to my Twitter there. Follow me on Twitter. I have a Facebook page. I even have a merch store if you want to help support the channel even more, or a join button on the channel. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you, Bat Family, in the next video. Goodbye.